Welcome to another episode of The Latest with Maya. Today, I am very excited to be having a conversation with actor Ashley Holliday Tavares. Ashley has been in so many different things, and she is currently on the hit Netflix show My Life with the Walter Boys, where she plays Tara, the school guidance counselor. I love that show and I love your character. Um, yeah, I and I can't wait for season two. So thank you so much for being on my show.
Oh, of course. Thank you for having me and thank you for loving the show. And I'm so excited about season two.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's get started. Um, so what about your character in My Life with the Walter Boys um drew you to the project?
Oh, God, Tara is so human and so willing to wear her heart on her sleeve and kind of just make a mess of things. And I love that. I love kind of the messy humanity of her.
Yeah,
And she's so kind at the same time and so focused on her career and so concerned about the future of the kids that she's, guiding towards hopefully some type of brilliant future. And I just love all those things about her. I love that she can be kind of messy and wonderful and human in her personal life, but be so dedicated and on top of it and committed in her professional life, especially, with something so important as the, future of people, the future of
yeah,
their lives. It's such a big job.
yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah. So what motivates you even on days when you aren't really feeling it?
That's a good one. You mean professionally or personally?
Both.
Both.
Yeah.
I would say personally, I mean, I just had a baby 5 months ago. So
Congratulations.
thank you. 5.5 now. And she definitely helps me get out of bed in the morning if I'm not feeling it. Feels like there's no other option at that point, but she's just kind of she's a light, she's a joy, especially that first smile in the morning. It really helps you get out of bed personally. And professionally, I love acting so much and I love going to set and um, feeling the energy and everybody working together, making something and that possibility when action is called where you kind of don't know what might happen. I love that. So if I'm not professionally feeling it, I know once I get to set and that magic starts to happen, and I start to feel it and I get like, goosebumps when
Yeah.
they're about to call action, I'm like, oh, I'm good.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. So what in your life brings you the most joy?
Well, I'm going to say my baby first because I feel like if I don't, that's bad. So my baby girl, she definitely brings me a ton of joy. She is constantly changing and just astounding in the way that she does things. Babies are fascinating. I wasn't a big baby person prior to having one, so I didn't really have experience with them. So just watching her learn things on her own and grow and do things, I'm like, how did you even know how to do that? It's incredible. So she brings me a ton of joy. And my other baby, acting, um, I've always wanted to do it since I was a really little girl. And the fact that I get to do it is such a lucky gift. Um, I feel very grateful for it, and that brings me a ton of joy. And I also have a wonderful husband who I would be remiss in not mentioning. He also brings me so much joy. He's so supportive and so wonderful and such a good father and he's so good at taking care of her when I need to do professional stuff and just jumps in and he's so hands-on and I'm really lucky to have that as well. So I've got a lot to be joyful about, I think.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. So who has had the biggest impact on you professionally?
Oh, that's a good question. Um, I think inadvertently my mom, because the reason that I love acting so much and the reason I got into it is because well, still is, but she had a different job at the time. She was a production coordinator in the film industry. And so every time she would go to a movie or a TV show, I would go with her. And I travel with her since I was really little, since I was like 3 or 4. So every time she went and did a movie, I'd go to set and I'd hang out and I'd see the actors acting and I'd see everybody working together and the crew putting the shot together and the lighting team lighting the set and just how everybody worked together to make something happen. And I was so inspired by it and so just in love with it. And I was like, well, this is all I want to do for the rest of my life. Even if I'm not an actor, I want to be on a film set and I want to be around this type of energy for the rest of my life. And I want to travel like this for the rest of my life. And even though my mom, when I went up to her and said, I want to be an actor, she was like, absolutely not. You're not, you can't. That's not a profession. I was like, no, it is. I see it every single day. Everybody's doing it. And
Yeah.
so she did, of course, eventually she was like, okay, I give up. You can be an actor. Um, but she really, her taking me with her and me getting to have those experiences really influenced my career and my ability to love this job so much because it's been such a part of me for so long.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Um, who has had the biggest impact on you as a person?
I think probably my grandmother. Um, she, my mom had a lot of help when I was growing up, in terms of my family. I would live with my grandma sometimes if I couldn't go with my mom on a certain job or if my mom needed time to set up before I got to wherever she was. So I'd go live with my grandmother. And she lived in a retirement community in Florida. And so I just got to hang out in this, like they all had like little trailers. And I got to live in this really cool retirement community with all these senior citizens who were so sweet and who really molded me and uh, just gave me an appreciation for life and for experience and wisdom. Um, and my grandmother also did that, and she had a wicked sense of humor. And I have that sense of humor. I'm just like her in terms of sometimes I'll hear myself saying something and I'll be like, oh, that's what Nani said. Her name was Bonnie, but I called her Nani. Um, and she was just such a huge part of my life. She gave me my love for reading, for baking, and for kind of like questioning the world, for not accepting things at face value. And I really appreciate that. She passed away when I was in high school, my senior year. And it's always been really, I've always really, really missed her. And I think of her often, especially now that I have a baby. And especially now that, things are going so well career wise, I just think back to her and I think of how much she supported me growing up and how proud of me she'd be today.
Oh, I love that. And yeah, I'm so sorry about that.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
She was wonderful.
Yeah, she sounds like it.
She was a spitfire.
Yeah. I love that. Um, so if you had a warning label, what would yours say?
Mine would say, that's a great question. Mine would probably say, make sure she eats every 3 hours. I get so hangry and I don't even know what's happening when it's happening. I'm like, why am I so mad? Why am I so angry? Why am I so like uptight and tense? Why am I snippy? And it's always because I have not had a meal. I need to eat like every like increment or I'm just the worst. So I asked my husband. So I would say probably just stick that right on my forehead. Just every 3 hours, make sure this girl eats. Otherwise, it's bad news.
I love that. So I am pop culture obsessed and I go in stages of shows that I cannot stop watching.
Mhm.
Is there a show that you are currently obsessed with?
Well, I just finished The Crown, and that was heartbreaking and wonderful. Um, but I love television. I've always, of course, loved television and movies so much. So I'm a big television person. And most recently, prior to having a baby, because I would do a lot of binge watching prior to having a baby. God, what was I watching? Never Have I Ever on Netflix was
Yeah,
so good and so hilarious and so grounded and wonderful. I
yeah,
loved that show. Um, I just finished the Fall of the House of Usher, which was scary and heavy and wonderful. I couldn't stop watching that. I watched it every single time I had the opportunity. Um, and I actually just recently, because I'd have to get up in the middle of the night to do baby things, I started watching Game of Thrones again, and I watched the entirety of Game of Thrones, and it felt like I was binge watching it, which I wasn't able to do, the first round.
yeah,
And it was so fun. That show is the last season, of course, falls off a little bit, but
yeah,
that show is so good. And they really do, going back, people had such a hard time with that last season, but they really do set it up early on. And I didn't realize that first time. And so it's really good to watch it again and to be like, oh, okay, this was always supposed to happen. It was so fun to watch. And I mean, I loved it the first time around, but I had a different appreciation for it that second time around, I feel like.
Oh, cool. I
Yeah.
love that. Yeah, I love finding shows to binge watch.
Mhm.
Yeah,
The best.
yeah, it is. Um, so what is your favorite movie soundtrack?
Ooh, good question. These are great.
Thank
Um,
you.
the funny thing is growing up, I had a lot of soundtracks. That's how I found a lot of the artists that I loved. That was my big thing with soundtracks. Um, I would say, can I list two? Can I give you two?
Yes. Yeah.
I think that they definitely are the same. And then I also have a score. My favorite score album soundtrack is to Little Women, the 1994 one with Winona Ryder. It's beautiful. It's lovely. Thomas Newman's the composer and he's wonderful. And then for my two like favorite movie soundtracks, I would say Almost Famous. Because what a good just collaboration, just the all those good bands on one soundtrack is incredible. And then Romeo and Juliet, the one with Leonardo DiCaprio and Claire Danes, that soundtrack is so indicative of that time, and it feels so. When I listen to it, I'm just thrown right back into into seeing Leonardo DiCaprio for the first time on screen, his big beautiful face as like a
Yeah.
12-year-old, 13-year-old, to being like, who's that? It takes right on back to that moment. And it's just so well done. It's such a good soundtrack. Moulin
Oh,
Rouge is good too. Speaking of Baz Luhrmann, I mean, how could I not?
yeah.
Moulin Rouge is a beautiful soundtrack.
Oh, I love that.
What's your
Yeah.
favorite soundtrack?
Oh, I so for me also there's two that come to mind right away. There's the soundtrack to the Netflix movie The Prom.
Ooh, I'm gonna check that out.
I love that soundtrack. It's one of my favorite movies.
Okay.
It's so fun. I love it. Um, and then the soundtrack to the movie Words on Bathroom Walls.
Ooh, I'm gonna check that out too. What's Words on Bathroom
Yeah,
Walls? That sounds
yeah,
great.
yeah, that one's also really good. It's
Okay.
about a senior in high school who is diagnosed with, I'm not giving anything away
Okay.
because this is like it's the synopsis of the movie.
Right.
It's he's diagnosed with schizophrenia,
Okay.
and so then it's him like trying to figure out, how to kind of deal with that and with
Uh,
everything.
yeah,
Um,
navigate that.
yeah.
Well, that's very cool. I'm gonna check. So prom and Words on Bathroom Walls.
Yes,
I'm gonna
the
check that out.
prom.
The
So
prom. I'm gonna check that
yeah.
out.
Oh yeah, they're both, yeah, so good. I love those movies.
I love getting new soundtracks and I love hearing about new movies. So
Yeah.
that's very exciting. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I did see the Romeo and Juliet with Leonardo DiCaprio when
What do you think?
I um I mean I thought everybody in it was really good.
Yeah.
Um I just I don't know. I don't I was so I watched it when I was in high school because I was reading Romeo and
Mm.
Juliet and not fully understanding it with all the
Right,
language. So
right.
then I watched that movie. Like I got like the gist of the story, but so then I watched the modern version of it with Leonardo DiCaprio, and I thought everybody in it was really good, but I wasn't a huge fan of like all the violence.
Style,
Uh,
yeah,
yeah, so
yeah.
that was the only thing I didn't love about the movie.
It's intense when you take, because the original, of course, iteration is swords instead of,
Yeah, yeah,
it's instead of guns, and it is it's a lot like heavier, I feel like, when it's guns. There's something about
yeah,
it's very like shocking,
yeah,
especially
yeah,
nowadays. I'm sure rewatching it would be kind of jarring. Back then it like wasn't such a
yeah,
big deal because we weren't in this culture of just terror when it comes to, gun rights
yeah,
and all of that, or gun legislation. Um,
yeah,
and so I can see how that'd be really jarring. At the time, it was just like we almost didn't see the guns. We only saw this beautiful boy, this stunning man who all of a sudden
yeah,
was like jumped on the scene, and every single girl in the world was like, wait a minute, who's that? Who is this? Probably how everybody's feeling about Noah right now in terms of Cole. Like, wait a minute, who's that?
yeah,
And Ashby too. Like, wait,
yeah,
where have these beautiful boys been? These beautiful
yeah,
men who act so wonderfully. Where have they been? It's so
yeah,
funny that way too, that we've got like these two incredibly like gifted leads on our show. And I mean Nikki as well, but she's in a different stratosphere. But like it's cool to have that, to know that like our show is kind of doing what Romeo and Juliet did to me when I was, when I was younger. It's cool.
yeah. I love that. Yeah. Um, so what, no matter how many times you see it, always takes your breath away?
I think the full moon. Every time I see a full moon, I love the moon. I saw one the other night. It was actually Christmas night. It was going into a full moon on the 26th. And it was there was like a cloud cover on it. And so it looked all misty and kind of soft around the edges. And I just stared at it for probably 10 minutes. I was holding on to my girl, my baby girl, and just pointing at the moon and showing it to her. And she stared at it with me. And it was a very cool moment. And it usually always takes my breath away. It's just so cool that that's just sitting up there.
Yeah.
Incredible, just affecting our oceans, no big deal.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, definitely. I love that. Um, so what genre of movie would your life story be told as?
Probably a dark comedy. I
Yeah.
would say I've had some ridiculous things happen to me in this life, and some really funny things and some really sweet things, I would say romantic comedy, but just too many little things have happened for that. But I feel like you could turn a lot of the kind of sadder or darker things in my life into something kind of funny.
Yeah.
And I've always kind of done that in life. That's my defense mechanism. I'm always
Yeah.
turning things into humor if I can help it. So I feel like that's probably would be my genre, is a
Yeah.
dark comedy.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. Yeah, my family and we have a very warped and dark sense of humor with, everything we've gone through, you kind of have to
That's
not,
the thing.
um, yeah. So,
Yeah, it's a good way to, I think it's a good way to find a way to keep going, you
yeah,
know? It's a good
yeah,
way to get through, because sometimes the only way out is through. So it can
yeah,
be really helpful to keep humor as part of that journey.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah. Um, so if you had a day to yourself, what would it look like? Where would you go and what would you do?
Can I go anywhere?
Yes.
Ah, okay. Then I probably only one day though. It's a day. Well, maybe I could do time change. Okay, I'm gonna keep it small. I would go to Pasadena in California, and I'd probably go to Descanso Gardens and see all the beautiful flowers and hang out and take a walk. And then I'd probably go get nachos somewhere I really love, some really good Mexican place because I love nachos.
Yeah.
And then I'd probably go and see two movies in a theater back to back. I love going to the movies. I love sitting in a dark theater and watching something and escaping and just going into a different world. If I had more than one day, if I had 2 days, I'd fly to Italy and
Yeah.
I would just eat all day long.
Oh, I love that.
Love Italy. I love Rome and I love Cinque Terre. So that would definitely be my 2 day
Oh,
excursion.
yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Um, so if you had to pick any character in a book, movie, or TV show who is most similar to you, who would you choose and why?
Oh, that's a toughie. Who did I feel most connected to growing up? You know, I think just because it was so affecting on my childhood, there's a show called from the 90s called My So-Called Life with Claire Danes. Was the first thing she ever did. And her character, Angela Chase, we were different, but I felt a lot of her kind of awkward, quirky, I want to be a good person, but I don't know what I'm doing kind of vibe. Um, and so I think when I was younger, I really associated with that and I really felt for that. Um, I think as an adult, gosh, what have I seen lately that I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go for the easy answer. Her name is Tara Jacobs, and she's on My Life with the Welder Boys.
Yeah.
Um, I feel very connected to Tara. If I saw Tara on a TV show, I'd be like, oh, that's me. Um, Oh, I have an answer. Bridget Jones. Bridget Jones is me forever. Bridget Jones, except for the smoking cigarettes. I always been on a journey of, trying to lose weight and trying to be the perfect person and trying to find the perfect career and the perfect relationship. Um, and of course, at the end of it, realizing that a lot of the things I was focused on weren't important, like the losing weight, like, trying to be perfect and always kind of bumbling it up and messing up and saying the wrong thing or tripping at the wrong moment. Like I can't help myself. People think I'm like trying to be like adorable when I step over my words or fumble or fall over. It's not adorable. It's humiliating and embarrassing and I can't stop. I just can't help myself. Make weird faces. It's just part of my makeup. Living that Bridget Jones life pretty hard.
I love that. Yeah, yeah, my favorite thing is watching a show or a movie and finding a character that I can just really connect with and relate to. And
Same.
so yeah, I have a couple characters that just I will always have in my heart, even though the shows are over.
Yeah, same. I feel the exact same way. There's something special about when you connect with a character and you're like, oh, okay. That's why I wanted to
Yeah,
wanted to be an actor too, is for that reason.
yeah,
It can be so isolating being a human being. And when you see somebody on television or in a movie who you feel like you connect with or who is going through a similar experience, it can be so meaningful and gratifying and it can feel so good. And
yeah,
it's a huge reason why I wanted to do this because I know that a lot of people want that. They need that reach out where they feel like they can associate with somebody and be like, oh, I'm not alone in this world. I am
yeah,
seen.
yeah, definitely. Yeah. Um, so what is something people are always surprised to learn about you?
That I am Cape Verdean, which a lot of people don't know where that is. It is 10 archipelagos to the west of Africa, and they're their own beautiful, stunning culture. I've never been there. I very much want to go, but my dad's side of the family is Cape Verdean. Um, and we are a small but mighty group of people. And when people usually see me, they have every notion of what ethnicity I am. But when I'm like, oh, I'm Cape Verdean, they're like, come again? What's that? What was that? So I have to then I give them that speech that it's Tana Blaga is the best I've ever. And so I think that's probably the biggest thing is my ethnicity and what I'm made up of.
Wow.
Proud,
Yeah.
capable, proud, proud.
I love that. Um, so I love inspiring and motivational quotes. And this week, my favorite quote is, "What if you simply devoted this year to loving yourself more?"
That's great.
Yeah. Is there a quotation that has inspired you lately?
None that I've really seen. I feel like I've heard a lot of them recently, being a new mom, going through the journey of postpartum, going through pregnancy, and what I've heard from a lot of moms, a lot of people who've just experienced having a baby or going through raising a baby, is that you just keep going.
Yeah.
You pick yourself up and you keep going. No matter how tired you are, no matter how stressed out you are, no matter how much you think you can't do it again, you can't wake up that next day because you're so exhausted, you just keep going. And there's something to be said about that. I think it's important to always look at yourself and make sure that you can keep going, that you're able to, that if you need a rest day, you take that rest day, you take your downtime, you nurture yourself, you take care of yourself. But then the next day, you get up and you just keep going.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah. Um, well, it was so much fun talking with you. I have had the best time.
Oh, good, me
Uh,
too.
yay. Yeah, I so appreciate your taking the time, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
You too. And a good rest
Thank
of your
you.
year. I know we don't have many days left,
You
but yeah.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and happy 2024.
Yes, you
Yes.
too. Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
and that's a wrap on today's edition of The Latest with Maya.